Welcome back. In the previous steps, we looked at how to handle exceptions. But you might be writing code which might throw exceptions as well. So how do you throw exceptions? That's what we would be focused on in this and the subsequent steps. Let's get started with creating a simple example. I will create a new Python file and I will call this currency. Let's consider a simple example, right? So when we talk about currencies, so let's say I have 20 USD and I would want to be able to add 30 USD to it. What would be the result? 50 USD. So we would want to develop a simple program which allows us to add currencies. Think of a scenario where I have to add INR 500 to USD 50. Let's say the first version of the program that we write, we don't really support this feature. In the second version, we would want to add a currency exchange and look at how to convert it and add more features. But in the first version of the program, what we want to be able to support is just adding same kinds of currencies. We don't want to support adding different kinds of currencies. And when different kinds of currencies are added in, we would want to throw an exception. Let's see how to do that in this specific step. Let's get started with defining the currency class. So class currency, and let's create a simple constructor. So def underscore underscore init. I'd want to be able to add two parameters, right? So I would want to be able to say what is the currency. For now, let's just keep it as a string, and we would say amount. So how much of the currency, and we'll say self dot currency is equal to currency and self dot amount is equal to amount. So that's cool. So we have the constructor ready. Let's also define a representation methods so that we would see the currency values when we print it out. Let's say return representation of, let's send a tuple in self dot currency comma self dot amount. Simple, right? Nothing complex that we are doing until now. It's all simple stuff. So now let's comment this out with a hash, and let's create instances of the currency class as well. Currency of USD comma 20. I'll say value 1. Let's print value 1. Let's run this program and see what would be the output. Oops, I got an error because the name should have been init. Now let's run this again. Yep, now we get an output USD 20. That's cool. So we are now able to print the create a currency with specific values, right? What we want to be able to do is we would want to be able to add a value to, and let's say have 30, and I would want to be able to do value 1 plus value 2. What do you think will be the output if I do this right now? It says unsupported type plus for currency and currency. It's saying you cannot add two currencies. How can we support adding currencies? We can do something called operator overloading, right? So you can give a new meaning for this operator for the currency class. How can I do that? It's very simple. All that you need to do is implement something called add method. So on the currency, I'm implementing a add method. So what I can do now is I can say what should be the result of this. The parameters that come into the add method are the current object as well as the value we would want to add in. So the value 1, let's say I'm doing value 1 plus value 2, then self would be having the value of value 1, other would be having the values of value 2. So what we can do is, let's for the start assume that both of them have the same currency. So I can say that the currency of the resultant object should be one of these. So either it can be self dot currency or it can be other dot currency. What should be the value? Value should be the addition of both of them, right? So self dot amount plus other dot amount. So that would be the total amount. So let's call this total amount, and what we would want to return from here is what is the result of the addition. What is the result of the addition? It's a new currency object, and let's use one of the types. Let's assume for now that these two would have the same type. So let's self.currency, comma, total amount. Now let's run this program. You can see what is printed, USD, comma 50. But one of the things that we are doing in here is we are assuming that both currencies have the same type. So what would happen if I say INR, comma 30? It still adds them up. What I would want to do in here is I would want to have a check. I'd want to check if the currencies are the same. If they are not, I would want to throw an exception. So if self.currency is not equal to other.currency, right now we are not supporting that feature. We would want to throw an exception. How can I throw an exception? The way you can do that in Python is by saying raise and say exception, and you can pass in a piece of text. I'll say currencies do not match. Let's run this and see what would happen. You can see that it throws an exception, currencies do not match, and you can see the complete stack trace. It shows this is the line which is throwing the exception. You can dig in, this is the specific line that is throwing the exception as well. So this is how we raise exceptions in Python. All that you need to do is use the keyword raise, create an exception, and pass in currencies do not match. The next step, we'll understand how to create custom exception classes. In this step, we reused the exception class which is already present in Python. In the next step, we'll look at how to create a custom exception class of your own. Until the next step, bye-bye.